Okay, good evening. We're up to the new Perek of Gimel. We're up to the new Perek of Gimel, and the Masechta had begun Dinei Mamonis B'Shleisha, right? That Dinei Mamonis was B'Shleisha. Now, what exactly is Dinei Mamonis? We know now it's Haidos v'Halvos, right? We spoke about Gezelis Chavalos were Dafka Mumchin, but Haidos v'Halvos, it's Dinei what? That's Dinei Mamonis. So we're dealing with a person admitting that he owes the money, or a person has a halva and he admits that there's a halva. So there's a shaila about the halva. Dinei mamonis b'shleisha. Now, zeh bayr le'echad, v'zeh bayr le'echad, u'shneim bayrim lehen oid echad. Div Reb Meir. So in the Havmin of the Gemara, it's mashma. This one picks this bezdin, this one picks another bezdin, and then both of them, the Malva and the Loiva, agreed to pick a third bezdin. And the Gemara is going to ask, why do you need three? But they didn't for. So this one picks this bezdin, this one picks this bezdin, and then they both agree upon a third bezdin. The Chachamim Maimrim, Shnei Dayanim Boirim Lehem Oid Echad. Right, two Dayanim they pick the third. That's what the Chachamim say. The third Dayanim pick the third. Zeh Poisel Dayanim Shel Zeh. This one can say that this Dayan is unacceptable to me. I don't trust the guy. And this one can poisel the other one. Div Reb Meir, a Masai, Bisman shemevi aleihem raya shehin kroiv my psulim. Avam hoyuk sherim oy mumchin. If they were kosher, they were regular guys, but they were kosher. Again, dinei mamonis can be hedyotos, right? If they're ksherim oy mumchin or experts, if they bezdin, ein yochel paislan. You can't passel. So the mayor is of the opinion that you could passel dayanim, and the Chachamim retort to the mayor, if they're ksherim, you can't. If they're mumchim, you can't. Again, we'll get clarity in the Gemara exactly what the Mishnah is going on in the Mishnah. Next case, zeh poisel eidah shel zeh, v'zeh poisel eidah shel zeh. Each one can passel the other one. Div Reb Meir. The Chachamim Maimrim, a Masai, when can they passel? Bisman shemevi aleim raya shein kroivim psulim, with a apostle edis, with a relative or apostle. Avalam hoyik sherim ein yochel paislan. So the same machloikis that Reb Meir and the Chachamim had by Dayanim and the ability to passel, that's the same machloikis they have by Edim. And again, if the Havamina is in the first case zeh bar le'echad v'zeh bar le'echad, it's speaking about bezdin. Says the Gemara, "My zeh bar le'echad v'zeh bar le'echad." What does it mean? This one chooses a bezdin, and this one chooses a bezdin, right? B'til sasagi, l'chayra, all you need is 3. You don't need 9. You don't need 6, right? Zeh bar le'echad v'zeh bar le'echad. Mashma, each one is picking 6, but you don't need 6. You only need 3, right? Hachi kamar, kishezeh bar le'bezdin echad. When kishazeh, they add this word, kishazeh, when this one is boira, bezdin echad, this, we have a Gemara here, Yankel. Kishazeh boira lei bezdin echad, bezeh boira lei bezdin echad, shneim boirim lehem oid echad. In other words, this one picks this bezdin, and this one picks that bezdin, and they don't like either one, then they can go ahead and choose together one. That's what the Gemara's Havamina is. Rashi, Hachi Kamar. Kishazeh bar le bezdin echad, bezeh bar le bezdin echad, v'chol echad poisel oisei bezdin. So, in other words, you're not ending up with 9, you're not ending up with 6, you're ending up with 3. But each one canceled out the 3 of each other. Each one canceled out the other one's 3. Shebira chaverei v'ein ratzoi laden lefanav. He doesn't want to go to that bezdin. So therefore, then shneim barim lehem echad klaimar ein yachal lakayf zeh zeh. They can't force each other. They go ahead. In other words, I can't force you to be my bezdin, you can't force me to go to your bezdin, and we'll agree upon a bezdin. So that is the first clause of the Mishnah right now. And he passels, and he passels, they choose a bezdin, not 6, not 9, 3. Fred the Gemara, and even the loiva could say he's not acceptable with this bezdin. 1 second. The Amar Rebbe Laza, Lo Shanu, that the who can go ahead and stop a bezdin elam alva. Avaloiva kaifin I say v'don beirai. The loiva he can't force the malva to spend money traveling to his bezdin. Those guys, the malva is in Sayreville, right? The malva is in Sayreville. That's my Sayreville's my go-to place, and the other one's in Point Pleasant. And how in the world can the loiva force the malva to go to his bezdin? You owe me money. I'm going to spend money traveling from Sayreville to Point Pleasant. Why? In other words, you're telling me the way you're learning Pshat in the Mishnah that if you don't like this bezdin, you can force me to your bezdin. 1 second. The loiva doesn't have much. Loiva eved liish malva. We said in Baba Basra, right? A loiva is an eved to liish malva. The borrower is an evet to the lender. So the malva can force the issue, but the loiva not. The loiva can't. Says the Gemara. If I feel a loiva ma'akiv, I vom Rebbe Laza, loy shanu ela malva. He can go ahead and force the issue to travel. Ava loiva kaifin esay v'don be'irai. So what's pshat in our Mishnah then? And for the Gemara Kedar Rabbi Yochanan, it's speaking be'akar shebesura shanu. We're going to see a teretz later on. It's speaking that this was learned be'akarais shanu. We learned it be'akarais in the courts of Surya. We're going to see what that means in a second. Hachanami, our Mishnah is speaking the machloikis between is what be'akarais shebesura. Therefore, the loiva can go ahead and tell bezdin, I want another bezdin because this bezdin is not so good. Now, what are akarais shebesura? What are they? Look at Rashi. Akarais shebesura. So hoya b'kiyim b'din Torah. They weren't experts in the Din Torah. They were fine people. They were good lawyers. They had very good common sense, but they weren't experts in the Din Torah. Hilkach afilu loiva matzi ma'akiv. You, the malva, you picked this arkah. You picked this bezdin, right? This bezdin of modern secular people who know law but not Din Torah. I, the loiva, do not want to go to such a bezdin. So we're keeping that pshat. The loiva is ma'akiv because he doesn't like the choice of the malva. Of course, the malva chose what? Regular Joes, who in his mind that they made a lot of sense. In that case, even if it means traveling, that case the loiva is able to go ahead and make a macha and say, I'm not interested. So that's pshat in the Mishnah so far. If the malva went ahead and chose Arkoi Shel Surya, that type of bezdin, the loiva, the lender, the borrower can say, no, I don't want to go there. But I don't want to go there.
When you said before, different city, when you said Sayreville and Point Pleasant, it doesn't matter that the jury. We're going
to see Bez Hashem. That's a Mishnah Vayta. I just picked the, yeah. Oh no, again, if it's not a tircha, then no, then right. Aval mumchin, but let's say, guys, the malva had chosen a mumcha, then the loiva would not be able to force the issue. In other words, if it's a koy shebesuri, he can stop it. But if the malva chose a mumcha, then guess what? The experts, mumcha mean the experts in Jewish law, they had smicha, they can dash in dina kanasais even. That case, then the loiva cannot force the issue. Papa Amar filu tema mumchin. You can even say that's mumchin, and the loiva can say, I don't want. Kigoin, this is going to answer your question, Yankel. Beidina de Rav Huna de Rav Chisda, right? Look at Rashi. Beidina de Rav Huna de Rav Chisda. The travayu b'chad makayim. They're both in the same place. So Memela, then the loiva can say, "Oh, we're both in Sayreville, in this street, in that street. We're going to go ahead. We're not going to go this one. We'll go this one." Then the loiva can why? Because there's no sweat off the malva's back. There's no expense. It's the same spot. So very geschmack. So when two pshatim, one, the loiva can force the issue if the malva chose a regular bezdin, not mumchin. But even if they chose mumchin, the loiva has the capacity, if it's in the same spot and there's no tircha for the malva to go, right? Says the Gemara, Kigoin Beidina de Rav Huna de Rav Chisda de Kamalei Mikom Etrachna L'cha. It's not a tircha for you. Okay. Now, so right now we have a pshat, right? So because as soon as you understand it, we're going to slug it up. But right now you have a pshat. That's the pshat. Each one picks a bezdin. Each one passes out the other's bezdin. Then they have to agree upon a bezdin. Tznan. The chachamim oimrim shnei dayanim boirim loy eid echad. Guys, look at the lashon of the Mishnah. Dini Mamanis B'Shloisha, Zebar Le'echad, Zebar Le'echad, Shnei Barim Le'em Echad. Chamamim, Shnei Dayanim Barim Le'em Echad. Two Dayanim pick one more. But what do you mean two Dayanim? We're dealing with a Bezdin. We're not dealing with people. We're dealing with a group of three. Three. What do you mean Shnei Dayanim? Says the Gemara. Shnei Dayanim Barim Le'em Echad. V'isa Kedaytach Kedharmina Me Bezdin. Bezdin Bosa De Pasilahu. Ozli Ubarulahu Beidina Achrina. Guys, so you tell me that the Chachamim say what? The Chachamim say, guys, look at it. The Chachamim say, Bezdin, they chose the third Bezdin. In other words, the Bezdin chose the third Bezdin. So, Malva chooses this, Lova chooses that, and then the Malva and Lova agree on the third Bezdin, correct? What do the Chachamim say? The Malva picks one Bezdin, the Lova picks another Bezdin, neither one likes the other one, they passed each other out. Those, but they didn't, then pick a third Bezdin. You just parceled them. How are they picking a third Bezdin? If that's your pshat, it makes no sense. You have you pick this, you pick this. I parcel you here, I parcel you there. Says the Chachamim, in that scenario, these two Bezdins that have been parcel, you know what you do? They pick a third Bezdin. How can they pick a third Bezdin? They're out of the picture. We don't want you in the first place. Says the Gemara. That each Bezdin pastelite each other, right? The Levin in this one, Malvin this one, Bezdin busted the pastelhu, Ozli Ubarlahu, Beidina Achrina, a third Bezdin, they're out. V'oid, Ma'izeh Bar Layechad, Bezeh Bar Layechad. What does it mean? This one picks this one and this one picks this one. If they're both satisfied with the first choice, why would they choose another? Guys, let's Zeh Bar Layechad, meaning you choose a Bezdin, and the other one chooses a Bezdin. Let's say the Leiva or the Malva like the choice of the other guy. You wouldn't have to go ahead and be butter. It's mashma, this is the protocol for what Dinei Mamanis. Each one has a say. Good? So what's the protocol? This one picks a Bezdin, and this one picks a Bezdin. Why does this one have to pick a Bezdin if they both agree upon the first Bezdin? You all agree it makes no sense, correct? Therefore, fellas, is not speaking about Bezdin. It's not speaking about a full Bezdin. It's speaking about a dayan.
I came late, so I didn't want to say anything, but I didn't understand why.
Ella hachi kamar. Come on time. Ella hachi kamar. Kishezeh bar ledayan echad. V'zeh bar ledayan echad. We're not speaking about Bezdin. We're speaking about dayanim. When this one picks a dayan and this one picks a dayan, shneim, then both the malva and the leiva, they pick the third dayan. So totally different than you thought. You thought, what? It's speaking about Bezdin. It's speaking about the picking the dayanim. They're not picking an existing Bezdin. They're picking about dayanim. Maishna da'avdi hachi. What's the reason? I'm my Rabbi Mishmei Dev Zera. Mitoich shezeh bar loy dayan echad. V'zeh bar loy dayan echad. U'shneim barim loy oid echad. Yotza din la mitoy. Then it's going to come out what? The din is going to come out the truth. In other words, well, guys, you picked your guy. You picked your guy. And then you both picked now. If you look at Rashi, it's the Shver Rashi, guys. Look at Rashi. So again, you have each one's picking their own, and then they're picking what? Together. Dayanim. So now you have three Dayanim. Now it's going to come out Lamita? It says Rashi. Let's see it inside. Titsaisi balei dinim. They're going to listen. To Savar hachayiv hareini ba'atzmi birarti echad. I chose the guy. And if you want to be mapich in my schus, hayi mahapich. V'adayonim ba'atzmam noiche daiton lahapich b'schus shneim. And the third guy is going to go ahead and take care of both of them. If they should shneim birurim because they both chose him. Now you look at Rashi, it appears like, well, you got your guy, I got my guy, and we both got a guy. That can't be. You're dealing with Dayanim. You're dealing with Dayanim who are going to paskin. So that's not what it means. It means that they're going to be happy. If you go ahead, human nature, right? That's human nature. If you're forced to go to a court, and you have no choice in the matter, and the guy says you're guilty, you walk out, you're in Brigas. Let's say you go to court, and you happen to know the person, and you know the person's an ish yoshev taif, and he says you're guilty, you may not be happy, but you'll understand it better that what this person, after all, he understands you, you understand him, and you're still guilty. So in male, that's what Rashi means. Since each one was involved in the process, fellas, since they're involved in the process, they're more ample, apt. That's the word. They're more apt to go ahead, and we want that, guys. You want people to walk out of best and satisfied with the process, so they'll come back again. You want the process to work. In other words, there's got to be a loser, but you want to know that what you were heard, right? You want to know you were heard, and I guess that's what you would hear over here. Since you chose this guy, you know for sure your taina will be heard. Of course, the dayan's going to paskin like the dayan paskins, right? Nothing to do with favoritism, nothing to do with that. We saw like Rav went paskin on a shachin. We saw in the last Masechta, right? Right. Okay, very good shmak. Okay, therefore that's the first in the Mishnah. Going back to the ratio of the Mishnah. Dinei mamin is b'shleisha, zebar leyechad. The malva picks a dayan. The zebar leyechad. The loiva picks a dayan. Ushneim barim lahamad echad. The Chacham say Shnei Dayan and Barim La'Yechad. It's the Dayan who picks the. Now we're up to that, right? So we explained the sheet of Reb Meir. The Chacham say it's the two Dayan who pick the third Dayan. The Chacham and Maimrim, right? They pick the third Dayan. What's the svaras hamachloikis between the Reb Meir that the Balei Dinim pick the third Dayan and the Chacham who says the Dayan picks the third Dayan? Neimer b'Rav Yehuda Amarav kamifkli. Let's say they're arguing in Yehuda Amarav. Rav Yehuda Amarav, Eino Edim Chaisman al Ashtar, Elen Ken Yoidim, Mi Chaismi Mahim. Edim can't sign on a star unless they know who's with them. You know, guys, you sign on a star, right? And you don't know the guy in front of you, he turns out to be a serial killer. Doesn't do good for the reputation, right? That you signed with this guy. So in other words, you're not going to sign with a guy unless you know who it is. So too, you're not going to judge a case unless you know who it is. So Reb Meir, who says what it's the litigants who go ahead and pick it. They don't care about this din or Yehuda Marav that you have to know the party with you, right? Masha Enkein, the Chachamim, they'll know. The Dayanim want to know who they are. What they want to know who they are going with, right? They want to know who they're going with. Neima b'Rav Yehuda Marav Kamifli. Rav Yehuda Marav, ein edim chaisman al shtar el ken yoidim mi chaismi mahem. Reb Meir Leslie, the Rav Yehuda Marav, he doesn't care, and therefore the dayan don't get to pick the third dayan, but it's the involved parties. For Rabbanan Isli, the Rav Yehuda Marav, right? He holds Rav Yehuda Marav. The Kulyalma Islahu Rav Yehuda Marav. V'dasa dayanim kulyam le pligi debinin. You need a dayan das. Ki pligi das bala dinim. You need the das of the baldin. V'meyasava das bala dinim nami binin. In addition to the dayan, you need the das of the baldin. Rabbanan Sarvi das of the dayanim binin. Das baldinim le binin. Okay, it's a kash like this, guys. Like the shita that the chachamim want to be happy with who are they picking? They're only picking the third guy. What about the first guy? In other words, fellas, you want to be on the same court with three faleslicha guys. So you pick the third guy. But 1 second, the first two were picked by what? By a Malva and a Leiva. Maybe this guy doesn't like this guy. Maybe this guy doesn't like this guy. You hear? In other words, like that opinion that the whole machloikis is you have to be happy with who you're with. Yes? So really, that the third dayan they would have a choice, but the first l'chayra, why should the first two you should also say I don't want to be with this guy, I don't want to be with that guy, and the answer is they could. The fact they could because they're not a bezdin yet, guys. Look at the Bach Beis. Shilu hoyu bali dinim boirim shemala yehei hagan. Maybe the third guy that the bali didn't pick will not be good. V'layiyu hashnayim yichaylim loymar einani yishrim imzeh. They'll say, I don't want to sit with this guy. It's embarrassing. If each one, when the Malva chose his and the Lova chose his, I'm not going to sit with this guy. We don't care. The Leka Kisufa, there's no embarrassment yet. The Katiloi is Kavu al Dina. You haven't been Kaveh Din. There wasn't a Bezdin yet. There was only two guys. Guys, you hear what he's saying? One more time. What's the kasha? I don't want to be in a bezdin with someone I think is not kosher v'yasha, right? So when the Malva picked one and the Lover picked one, you got to pick the third one. So you got to pick the third one, you're going to sit with a good guy. But 1 second, you didn't get to pick the first guy. You didn't get to pick the first guy. So, l'chayre, if you care about you sitting with, what's going on over here? And the answer is, you're right. They could have stopped the process right there because it wasn't a bezdin yet, right? It's only after they accepted each other, then the third guy becomes a problem. That's the box terrorist to the kasha. Gufa. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Eino Edim Chaisman al Shtar, right? Edim can't sign a shtar right, unless they know who's with them. Because again, you're worried about busha, who there it is. Tanya Nami Hachi. Kach hoya nekiyei hadas b'shalayim oisen. The nekiyei hadas, the people who were squeaky clean, oisen. Like hoya chaismin al shtar, they didn't sign with the shtar. Elam ken yoydem mi chaismin imahem, unless they knew who was signing with them. Like hoya yoishvim bedin, and if they were a dayan, they wouldn't sit medin. Elam ken yoydem mi yoishv imahem. Hoya nechnasim besuda, they didn't go ahead and enter a suda. Elam ken yoydem mi meisav imahem, unless they knew what. Who was sitting down with them? Says Rashi. It's a genai for a Talmud Chacham to sit with Amoritz Besuda. So I found a very, very geschmack. Bobby Orbach told it to me outside. I found it in my Gerlius Hayom. Very geschmack. Okay, this is. I sent it out, guys. You should have it. You have it. You sent it out. You have it on your phones. Unless they know who's with them. So Zehu Shah Hakasiv in Tehillim Chavav. It's pasuk. It says base here. It's pasuk Daled, guys. David writes, "Lo yishafti im misei shav." I didn't sit down with dishonest people. Vim ne'elamim, and with people that I didn't know. Lo yavai. I wasn't associated. Klaimar im misei shava. If these people I knew were dishonest. I didn't sit down with them. And when they came to me, I got up. In them lamim, people whose actions I didn't know, I didn't come. I did not come to sit down with them. Says Rabbi Gerlius Hayoim, Shezehu Inyan, Masha Amar Chazal, Begitten Daf Nun Vav, the most famous Gemara of guys of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. Rabbi Kiva Oimer, Shahu Gavra Asher Shuvu Chachmei Yisrael LeHesev Etzlei Besuda, right? That he wanted to come sit down with him in the Suda. LeYaniach Es Bar Kamsa B'Shum Mechir LeHesev Etzlam. He offered him what, guys? I'll pay for my part. I'll pay for half. I'll pay for the whole thing. And B'Shum Oifen, right? B'Shum Oifen Bar Kamsa was not going to let Kamsa sit down. B'Shum Oifen wasn't going to let him. If he was a good guy, in other words, it can't be that the Rabbanan will allow sinner like this to go on. How would they allow it to go on? This person Bar Kamsa, he was worried about what? The covet of his guest. And he want to put him there. As we see from this Gemara, an Adam that isn't Hagan can't sit with Talmidei Chachamim. So that, guys, is the underlying reason for Kamsa Bar Kamsa, why he was so makbid. It's such a fellow. What a tzushto, right, guys? Yankel, no? Taladik. Unbelievable tzushto. Okay. Zeb Paisel Dayana. Okay, now this next, now till the end of the daf is a little involved. Okay, guys, here's the din. Let's see back in the Mishnah. Zeh Paisel Dayana Shal Zeh, Zeh Paisel Dayana Shal Zeh. Div Reb Meya. Come say you can only passel if it's a car of a puzzle, but you don't have the capacity to passel if he's a kosher. Same thing by Adam. Good. Says the Gemara. Kol Kamina de Paisel Dayana. How could Reb Meya passel a dayan? Kol Kamina? Do you have a capacity to go ahead and passel a dayan? You're saying this guy's no good. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Bar Korshe Besura Shanu. This is what we said before. We're speaking about Korshe Besura. We're speaking about what? We're speaking about these regular guys, and he's finding them. I think they'll take graft. I don't know, but this is what we're speaking about. Aval mumchim loy. But if he's a mumchin and dayi mumcha, there's no way Rebbe Meir would say you can passel. So the limitation of Rabbi Meir saying that what you can passel a dayan is speaking about these regular guys. Now says the Gemara, Hamidiktani Seifa the Chachamim Oimrim Emasai Bisman Shemevi Raya Shein Kroivim Apsulim Avum Hoyuk Sherim Oy Mumchim BP Bezdin Any Yachal Paislan Mechal Rabbi Meir Mumchim Nami Kamar. Back in the Mishnah, guys. Look at the lesson in the Mishnah. So now, 4 lines down, four lines down. Zeh Paisel Dayonish Shal Zeh, Zeh Paisel Dayonish Shal Zeh Div Reb Meir. Meaning, if these are regular Joes, but not Mumchim, you could passel. But Mumchim, you can't. The Chachamim Moimrim, Emasai, when Bisman Shemevi Aleim Raya, Shein Kroivim, my Psulim, Al Hoyik Sherim Oy Mumchim, Mipi Bezdin, right? Any Yachal passel. Now, if the Chacham say if it's a Mumcha, you can't passel, and Reb Meir is arguing, obviously Reb Meir must hold what? By Mumcha, you could passel. You want to tell me it's speaking of a regular Joe, right? But look at the Lashon in the Mishnah. The Chachamim introduced, they say Mumcha, you can't passel. Mashma Reb Meir holds a Mumcha, you could passel. Back in the Gemara. Hachikami, here's the way you read it. Avim hoy kasherim nasu kim mumchim mipi bezdin v'ni yachal paislan. In other words, don't read it as two separate things. Kasherim umumchim. Reading the following way: the im hoy kasherim, and if these people narkois besura were kasherim, then they're like mumchim. Then they have the din of mumchim. But of course, a regular mumcha, Reb Meir never said you passel in the first place. So Reb Meir's din. If it's a Arkoy Shebesurya, a guy who does no Dinei Torah, you can passel. V'mhoi Ksherim, then you can't passel. And the Ksherim will be like a mumcha. Why? Because Reb Meir's minded that a mumcha, you can't passel. Good. Toshma, back in the Gemara. Amrulay Reb Meir, Loi Kol Yimenu Shepasel Dayan Shemumcha L'Rabim. Mashma that Reb Meir says you could passel a dayan that's mumcha L'Rabim. Says the Ema, Loi Kol Yimenu Shepasel Dayan Shehumcha Rabim Aleim. Not a regular mumcha. You can't passel a dayan that they accepted upon themselves. Tanyanami hachi lo'ilam pasel v'hoylech at sheyakabel of bezdin shem mumcha l'rabim div Reb Meir. Reb Meir's moida that what? A bezdin that's mumcha l'rabim, you can't passel. Okay, good. Now, guys, by bezdin, is it possible to have different levels of dayanim? Yeah, right? Right? Arkois, ksherim, hedyoitais, mumchin. What about Eidim? What about Aiden? No, you only want aid. You're either a kosher aid or a puzzle aid. There's no different levels of aid. Now, Reb Meir argued by Eidim as well. The exact same achloikis. And Eidim are like mumchim. So how can you say that Reb Meir does not agree by mumchim? That right? He argues by mumchim, or you say he agrees. What about Eidim? He disagrees by Eidim, and Eidim zicha are the same as mumchim. Says Gemara, "Va'edim kimumchim dami." From Reb Meir, zeh paisel eider shel zeh, zeh paisel eider shel zeh. Now, guys, this is going to be the rest of the daf. According to Reb Meir, how do you have the capacity to paisel eidim? How can you paisel an aid? In other words, if you have eidim and it's a goslin, you're one person. You're one person. How could you paisel an aid? So, in other words, you're telling me, fellas, that Reb Meir clearly holds that if the dayan is a mumcha, you can't paisel. Aid is the same as mumcha, and Reb Meir holds you could passel. So we have to figure out what exactly we're talking about. So ha'idmar Allah, Amrei Shlakish, per kodesh yomer davazeh, could a per kodesh Reb Meir possibly say that the baldover could passel to Eidim? Guys, you hear? It's not possible to read the Mishnah the way we're reading. That the baldover, the loiva, or the malva can come and go ahead and passel the Eidim of the other person. It can't be. Says Reb Shlakish, Kodesh Reb Meir, to say this, it's not possible. That's not what he meant. So here's the question is, what did he mean? And we're going to have four ways to explain what he meant. Tana Eidoi. Don't learn Eidim, learn Eidoi. He can passel what? He can passel one aid. In other words, one aid came, and he can passel that aid. Now, Eidoi Lamai, let's see, Eidoi Lamai. Ilema Lamamin, if this aid wants to mechayv money, he says that you owe money. Guys, Al Pishnai made him Yakum Davar, right? You need to aid him. Rachmana Paslay, the Torah says he's puzzled. Ilishvua, you swear that you don't, right? That's called a Shvua Eidachad, but the Shvua Deraises, Shvua Eidachad. Ilishvua, himnuyim himna kibei we believe him like two. So l'chayra, what exactly is the case where Rabbi said that the baldava can possibly aid? Lo'ilam lemamin. The guy is coming lemamin. Eleitzricha the kibla le kibei. That this person, they accepted him as two. They accept him as, they said initially when this guy came, they said whatever he says, we're going to accept it as two. Whatever he says, we're going to accept it as two. Kemash Malon Reb Meir can go ahead and pass on this guy. He can go ahead and pass this guy. My Kamash Malon, the Matzi Hadabe, that initially you accepted him. Again, they accepted this aid as two. Now what are you telling me that you can go ahead back and say no? That's what you're telling me. You can pass him. There's a Mishnah later on that apparently says the exact same thing. Tanina, Amalai, Tanina, we learned this already, or we will learn it. Amalai, Nemanalai, Abba. Now, a person says, your father is, he's speaking about Dayanim. Your father, who should be possible to be a Dayan in this case, is believed. Nemanalai Avicha, your father. You're my father, your father. Nemanalai Gimel Rei Baka. That's exactly what he said over here. Just like you accepted this aid as two, you're accepting people who shouldn't be accepted as dayanim because they're kroivim. You accept them. Says Meya, you can go ahead and change your mind over there. So if your pshat Reish in our Mishnah is correct, why is it repeated? Why repeat something that already is stated? The Mishnah already states the case where you accepted somebody, you accepted a korev as a dayan. Here you accepted a person as two. So what are you telling me, that you can go back on your word? Rabbi said that already. The Chacham say you can't. The Chacham say you can't. Amid base. V'am Rav Dimi, Bereid Rav Nachman, Bereid Rav Yosef, Kigoin, the Kibla Lel Bechad. What's it speaking about? That you makabel him as one of the Edim, one of the Dayanim. Rashi, Hadik Tani Neman Alai Abba, Kigoin, the Kibla Leha Bechad Dayan. V'yesh Shnaim Ksher Mimo, you have two kasha with him. V'afilu Hachi, Kivin the Pasal Midaraisa, Matzi Hadebe. Hachanami, Kivin the Chad Lamamin, Le Mischasha, Matzi Hadebe. Okay, guys, outside. What does Rameya say, guys? Rameya says that you can, Baldova can possibly aid. Fred the Gemara, what aidim are we speaking about? In the world, where does he have the power to go ahead and passel aidim? Says the Gemara, it can't be. Mammon, you need two. Shvua, he can't passel the guy. He's believed for a shvua. So it must be speaking that what? It's one. Fred the Gemara, one is not believed. Says the Gemara, they accepted this one as two. Meaning, usually one is not good, they accept him as good. Says Rameya, you can cancel that. Fred the Gemara, why would Rameya have to say that? Why would if that's pshat in the Mishnah, that the way you are learning pshat in our Mishnah, Reish Lakish, why would Rameya have to say that? It's later on. It says the Mishnah, you accept a father as a dayan and two other kosher guys. Says Rameya, you can go ahead back. If you recheck, the Bezdin's gone. So why would you have to do that? Well, in other words, it must be there's a different pshat in our Mishnah, because if there isn't, you have a repetition. Guys, there must be a different pshat in our Mishnah, because if there's not, then you have a repetition. You're saying the same thing. As I read the Gemara. You're saying the same thing. Says it's not the same thing. Says Reish Lakish, I'm keeping this pshat. It's speaking about one aid that you accepted as two. And you have a Mishnah with the Dayanim, the same thing. Tzricha, you need to tell me both. The Tana Abba, if you're going to learn what? The Itana, the case of what? A father, the case later on, a father, and he accepted with two other Dayanim. Abba v'avicha b'hakam rabbanon, that you can't, delay matzi hadebe, you can't go back. Mishum the Abba v'avicha chazi la'alma. Fellas, if your father is a Dayan, and he has two other Dayanim with him, can he judge other cases besides yours? He's a full-fledged Dayan, right? So you know what? Maybe the Chacham say you can't go back in a case where you accept them to judge your case because they're acceptable in other locales. There's nothing really innately wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's accepted. You have three Dayanim over here. One of them happens to be a curve to you, but it doesn't pass the Bezdin. Ava b'chad by one aid. Kibei trei dila alma lechazi. You're making this guy one like two. All over one guy isn't, one does not equal two, right? All over one is no good to be two. Ema Moida Leila Rameya. I would think maybe the Moida Rameya you can change your mind. Kamashmala not. Kamashmala, if you accept him as two, is two. V'yashmina b'ha a case over here by one. V'akam Rameya. Aval b'hahi by the case of three of the Dayanim. I would, and since they're accepted all over, Ema Moida Rabbanon. So tzricha, you need to tell me what both cases. So right now, guys, we're holding one teretz. When Rameya said you can passel, who are we talking about? You can passel one person of Dinei Mamonis that you accepted as two. Next. Says the Gemara, Hamidutani Reisha, Dayanoi, the Sefer Eidov, Alma, Dafka Ketani. Guys, the Reisha, Daino is his Dayan, one. Eidov, witnesses, is two. So I'm not buying, I can't buy into this teretz that it's a guy that accepted one as two. The Mishnah is mashmad two Eidim. Not one accepted as two, but two full Eidim. Again, the lashon of the Mishnah, Dayanoi is one, Eidov is two. Says the Gemara. So Akash and Reish Lakish Pshat, Midiktani, Reish Daino, the Sefer Eidov, Alma Dafka Ketani. So you're right. Okay? So now, guys, we have another teretz. So that's back to the original kasha. What's the original kasha? How in the world could Rameya say that the Baal Din could passel Edom? How's that possible? How's that possible? Good. So we're gonna have three other ways to answer this. Amar Rabbi Laza, beboihu va'acha lepaislan. In other words, it's not him against. It's not him. It's him and somebody else to passel. He's somebody else with him. Good. Now, him and this other person they're coming along, and they're passing. It's two people testifying, and two people can passel. Rashi, Amar Rabbi Laza, Sefer Gabi Edim bebohu va'acher lepaislan. Two people are coming to passel the Edim. Davilu Trey, the Mesadei Apsula. You have two people that are testifying on the psul. That's something wrong with the Edim. Umehimna. V'dayonim bar koishe b'sura kedak kaminan v'lei pasel ma'amish kamar elbinim beidinim al. You need a good bezdin. So that was the dayonim, the case of dayonim when he passel. Okay. Anyway, you have two over here. So you have two people. The baldover. Let's say the loiv is coming with another person and saying the Edim that is testifying for the malva is pasel. Isn't that Nageh Be'edis? One of the things that we know a person he has subjectivity over here. If he has subjectivity, how can we believe this guy? How can we believe him? Says the Gemara, Kol Kamina, does he have that power? Nageh Be'edusa, he's Nageh Be'edis. Amravacha Be'eder Vika Kagoin Shekar of Ira. Already there's question here. Already they're questioning in other words, the Edim that they're testifying against, there's a question of his ability to testify. This guy, he's got a reputation, the guy. So, ira demai, ilema ira de gasnusna. If there's a rumor or substance that he's a goslin, kol kamina nagei be'edusahu. How can he testify? He's nagei be'edus. Ella. So who's that? Listen, guys, they're testifying this is a goslin. Isn't he nagei be'edus? Getting rid of this guy, he's nagei be'edus, right? In other words, I can't testify anything that directly is going to go ahead and cause me to win my case. So, two Adam come. He comes now with this, and he said, "This Adam, there is a goslin. One of them is a goslin. How could this Baldova, the loiva, testify that he's a goslin? He's nagei be'edus. Fred the Gemara, how's that possible? Ilay era the goslin so kol kamina nagei be'edusu. Ela era the pagam mishpacha. It's an era that there's a pagam mishpacha. Maybe he's a question about his lineage, his yichus, his Judaism, his Jewishness. Rameya Savar, Hani HaMishpacha Kamasade. He's testifying on the Mishpacha. The Iu Memela Kapasel. And he, Memela is becoming Pasel. Rabban Savi Seif Seif Negebe Edisu. Okay, guys, so here, like this. Let's say you testify that I know that 2 generations ago, there was a question about yichus. And now it's 2 generations later. So you're not directly testifying on this person. as a result of what you testified on the Zayda, it's well, maybe grandpa, it's coming to go ahead, Rod, and it's coming to go ahead and affecting him. Says Rameya, that's not Nageya Be'edis, and Memela you can passel. Says the Chachamim, you can't passel. That's still safe in the bottom line, no matter who you're testifying against. If the result is that you're going to go ahead and affect it, okay. So now, two pshatim so far. We're going to have four. Two pshatim. One is going against one aid, right? He's going against one aid, and we have a problem with that because it says a dove. Second pshat, he's coming with another aid and questioning the person's what? Lineage, and Meir says that what? It's not the Gei Be'edis. Okay, that is the second pshat, the pshat of Rav Les. The third pshat, Kiyasa Rav Dimi, Rav Yochanan. Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael. He said the name of Rav Yochanan. Machloikis b'shtei kitei edim. The machloikis is what? B'tu kitei edim. Pirish. Comes along the Malvin, he says the following. I have two sets of edim that you owe me $100. I have two sets of edim that you owe me $100. You come along with another guy and you passel the first set. Is that Nagay Be'edis? He's got another set, right? He's got another set. Good. So here's the question. When I say I have two pairs of Edim, for me to win my case, do I need two or I only need one? I only need one. So the question is, when you say two, do you have to be mavara that? Do you have to prove that? Or since it's unnecessary, you don't have to prove it? Guys, listen, I'm going to do it outside. Ramey is of the opinion the following. Guys, look at me. Ramey is the opinion of the following, like the following. If you say you have two sets of Edim, right, you have to be mavara that. You have to be mavara that. So therefore, even though I knock out this one, I still mavara this one. The Chacham of the opinion, no, since you only need one to win, that's it. And you don't have to be mavara. I don't have to be mavara your second claim. Memela, they hold out what? It's Nageya Be'edus. Why? Because you saying that this person is what? Is a Pagam Mishpacha and getting rid of them, I don't have to prove this one. Since I don't have to prove this one, I don't have anything. So you're Nageya Be'edus. Like Red Meya, since I have to prove this one, even though if I get rid of this one, I still have one left. So Memela, your testimony on this one to Pasel is not going to cost you the case. It's not going to cost the Malva the case. You're not Nageya Be'edus. Like the Chacham, since you don't have to, one could do the job, and you don't have to prove this one. Once you get rid of this one, you don't have anything, and therefore you're Nageya Be'edus. That's the second pshat according to Rav Dimi. Kiyasa Rav Dimi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Machlokes b'shtei kitei edim. There may sava tzarich levarer. You have to go ahead and be mevarer. You're going to have to prove both edim, number one and number two. So if you get rid of number one, you still have number two. So number one is not Nageya Be'edus. Rabban and Sarvi. Ain't it tzarich? You don't have to be mevarer it. And once you get rid of number one, everything's gone. I will be kat achas. But let's say you were testifying against one cat. Everyone would say you're Nageya Be'edus. If you're two against two, and you're going to get rid of the only set of Edis, even Reb Meir, even the Reb Meir Rechamim would say you could passel. Yeah, excuse me. Even Reb Meir would say yachal passel. Amlafan Rav Dimi Ravasi, Ein Sham El Karachas Mahu. If there's only one, what's the din? Says, and what are you talking about? Ein Sham El Karachas. Farmi, you just said Aval Karachas Dibi Akol Ein Yachal Paislan. Even Reb Meir would be mighty. You can't passel because it's Nageya Be'edus. So Ela Nimsa Kachnia Kroivim Psulim Mahu. Here's the Lamda Shashayla, guys. Watch. Like Reb Meir, like the Chachamim, that you have to be you have to be like the Chachamim that you don't have to be mevarer, right? So now, like Reb Meir, guys. So no, one second, like Reb Meir. It's only like Reb Meir. So watch. You have two Eidim. What did you do with the first pair? You prove one was a psul, correct? And now but it's not Nageya Be'edus in this one. Why? Because you have one left. Let's say the one left turns out one's a car of a puzzle. And now what? They're gone. Like Reb Meir, do we say retroactively, right? It's what? It's Nageya it's Nageya Be'edus and you can't passel? Or do we say once you testified, you testified? Again, like Reb Meir, the reason why this one's not Nageya Be'edus is because you have this one. What happens when you don't have this one? This one's out. Why? Because he's a car of puzzle. Now, what do we say? Do we say this one back? Going back to this one, do we say that what that he's Nagaya Be'edis and it's puzzle and it's or not? Do we say that what that's Nagaya Be'edis and or not? That's what the Gemara wants to know. Says the Gemara, Amalahen Idu Eidim Harishonim. They already testified, and that's it. There's nothing you can do about that. When you find the next one puzzle, we already accepted the first one. In other words, we accepted it, right? They weren't Nagaya Be'edis. No, guys, we accepted the Eidim, not Nagaya Be'edis, right? Look at Rashi. Kvar Heidu Rishayim, Kishanimsas Kat Shniya Psula. When you find the second Kat Pasal, Kvar Niskablik Bekashrus Eidushin Shalelu Hemeidim Al Psul. We already accepted the one that said on the Psul. Vadayin Lehoyu Nagaya Be'edis at that time. Now, however, once you passel the second one, do we retroactively say the first one was Nagaya Be'edis and we won't accept the Be'edis? This is getting a little, one more time. Just one more time, that's it, okay? Says Meya, if you're going to testify in the first one, it's not Nagaya Be'edis. Why? You can passel the first one. Why? Because they always have the second one. What happens if it proves the second one's out? Do we say that the first one was Nagaya Be'edis, it's passel? Or do we say, since they testified, when they testify it was good, it's good? And the answer is, it's good. Ikadiyami was not Rabbi Yochanan, but Amr of Ashi. Right? Either Eidim Rishonim, it was what the Eidim Rishonim who testified. Nema, let us suggest, okay, need a water? Okay, let us suggest that this machloikis between the Reb Meir and the Chachamim, that Yitzarech Levarer is another machloikis. Okay. Fellas, we had a machloikis in Masechta Baba Basra.
What was that?
Okay, this you'll remember from Masechta Baba Basra. Eidei Chazaka, right? Eidei Chazaka. If you're on there 3 years, right? What's the din? Do you need a star or not? You don't need a star. Why? Because the person watches your star for what? Okay. Guy shows up and says, "What are you doing on my land?" He goes, "You sold it to me. I ate Shani Chazaka, and not only did I eat Shani Chazaka, I have a star." Now, question: does he have to produce the star or not? So l'chayri, this is the same achloikis. When you say you have 2 eidim, right? If you have to produce 2 eidim, then you would have to produce the star. But if you say that no, by 2 eidim you only have to do 1, then you would only have to do chazaka. You wouldn't have to produce the star. So let's say that machlaikis is totally in this machlaikis. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara. Neima beplukta the Rebbe Reb Shimon Gamliel kamiflgi. Machlaikis between Reb Meir and the Chachamim is the same machlaikis between Rebbe and Shimon Gamliel. The Tanya habol lidain b'shtar u'b'chazaka. You claim you have both. You're on the nidain b'shtar. Divrei Rebbe says Rebbe you're nidain b'shtar, meaning you have, since you said both, nidain b'shtar. You better produce that star, even though if you didn't say star, you wouldn't need it. Once you said it, you said it. Once you said you have 2 eidim, guys. Once you said you have 2 eidim, you got to bring the 2 eidim. That's the exact same case. Reb Shimon Gamliel Leimer nidim b'chazaka. Fred Gemara Vavinaba b'chazaka v'lay b'shtar. It's not better than the star. Elaima af b'chazaka. No, you could even do chazaka. Right? The kaim alone did tzarich levara pligi, and so therefore it's very geschmack. Reb Meir, who says that what you have to produce the eidim, right? He would say you have to produce the star, and the Chacham who say that what that they're unagayed be'edis because you don't have to produce the second eidim. I don't need them. They would hold that what like Rav Shimon Gamliel that even chazaka. Says the Gemara, I'll leave it to Rav Shimon Gamliel koliyam le pligi. Again, when you have this Gemara, guys, the first one means that there's no way Reb Meir can come out according to Reb Shimon Gamliel. Anytime you have a Gemara, again, fellas, this is just I always say it all the time. You don't want to argue on Tanoim. Usually it's Amoraim. Over here it's Tanoim. You don't want to make machlokes. So over here there's no way to avoid it. According to Reb Shimon Gamliel, who says that Ein Tzarech Levarer, there's no way Reb Meir comes out. Reb Meir clearly has to argue. There's no way Reb Meir can hold like him. There's no way he can hold like Reb Shimon Gamliel. Reb Shimon Gamliel says after chazaka, meaning Ein Tzarech Levarer. You don't have to. Ki pligi, I'll leave it to Rebbe. But according to Rebbe, who's of the opinion that you need the chazaka, maybe there's a difference. I need a star. Maybe there's a difference between star and a difference by producing Adam. I'll leave it to Rabbi. The Rameya Karebi. Rameya obviously holds like Rabbi. Rameya, who says you have to produce the second set of Adam, holds you have to produce the star. The same thing. For Rabbanan Amilach, the Rabbanan will tell you, Ad kan like Kama Rabbi Hassam over there that you have to produce the star. Ela bechazaka the mikayach star kasi. The whole reason that the chazaka is because what? It's because you're not about to convert the star for 3 years. But now you said you have the star, produce it. Aval hacha the hani edim lav mikayach edim achrina kasu. There's 2 separate sets of edim. I feel Rabbi can be maida to what? To the chachamim. They tzarich levarer. So like the chachamim, I can come out according to both Rabbi and Rav Shem Gamliel. I could hold that by chazaka. Then I enachinami I would hold. You have to go ahead and produce the star because chazaka comes from the star. Mashen came 2 sets of edim with it 2 separate. You don't have to produce a set of edim. Okay. So now what do we have so far? Says Rav Meir, guys. Says Rav Meir, you can passel the edim. Says Rabbi Lazar, it's speaking about Reish Lakish, it's speaking about 1 aid. Says Rabbi Lazar, it's speaking about when you came with what? With another aid. Rabbi Lazar says you came what? With another aid, and you testified on Pagam Mishpacha, and by testifying on Pagam Mishpacha, then therefore you're not directly testifying on him, and therefore you're okay. That was Rav Dimi. No, who was it? It was Rav Dimi. Yeah. Rav Dimi says the name Rabbi Yochanan. It's speaking about you come with 2 sets of Edim, and the Machlokes is Rav Meir says you come with 2 sets of Edim, you got to produce both. Therefore, the first one, right? You're not negay be'edis. Therefore, you're not negay be'edis. Not negay be'edis. You'll be believed apostle. Okay. 4th pshat. Kiyasa Ravin. We have Rav Dimi coming from Babel and Ravin coming from Babel and then Rabbi Yochanan. Reisha be'edim psulim v'dayanim kasherim. The Reisha of the Mishnah that said you believe to passel the dayan, guys. The Reisha that said you believe to passel the dayan is he said the edim apostle, and he said and the dayanim we had a chazaka that they kasha, but migu de pasli edim pasli nami dayanim. Since this guy is believed to go ahead and passel the edim, he's able to pass the layonim. Says the top Rashi. Baldin poisel layonim v'o edim. V'nimsa dvar v'emes ala edim. U'mishem hachi mehim nulei afilu l'gabi dayanim. Migu, that we believe him on the edim, we're going to believe him on the dayanim too. That's pshat. You tell this is the Reisha, and then we're going to get the seif in a second. So he comes and he says the dayanim apostle, the edim apostle. He's believed on the edim. Migu, he's believing the edim. He's believing the dayanim. Seifa. The Sefer of the Mishnah, b'dayanim psulim v'edim ksherim. He's saying the dayanim apostle and the edim akosher. The migu the pasal dayanim pasli nami edim. So that's your 4th pshat. Einachinami. There's a ukimta over here. The reason he pasels is because what? Is because of the migu. Migu he's believed on this. He's believed on that. Maskal Rava b'shlem migu the pasli edim pasli nami dayanim ikka beidin achrina. There's another beidin. You're going ahead. I understand. So these dayanim are not good. Other dayanim are good. Elamigu the pasal dayanim pasal nami edim for edim suleka. You don't have no one else in town. No, why would you believe him? It's good he pasal dayanim, but if he pasal the edim based upon this migu, nothing's happening. Like tzricha deika karacheres. There's another kat. There's another kat. In other words, you're passing these sets of edim, but there are other set of edim. Says mahalaka karacheres mai hachanami le matzi pasal. Hainu Rav Dimi. So that's the exact same case of Rav Dimi. That there's another set. Right? There's 2 sets. So make it migu. The Mar Sava Amina Migu, that Ravin says you say Migu, Umar Sava Loya Amina Migu, and one says you don't Migu. And questions were not in this case or all over. So you have 4 pshatim how to explain Rav Meir pasling. 1, you have Eidim according to Reish Lakish. 2, Rabbi Lazar saying that not Negei Be'edis, Pagam Mishpacha. 2 sets of Eidim. And the Shaila like Ravin is Rav Dimi, is whether as your Mavara, Meir says you say 2, then you need both, and therefore it's not Nagay and Edis in the first. And you have now Migu, the concept, since he passed the Dayan, he passed the Edim as well. And speaking there is what? There's another set of Edim. Lot to digest. Baruch Hashem, it's recording.
Very good chance.
Shemis Mal Yasaf. Elohim al dami lach al techrash vatishkarel. Ki hine avecha yemayim esnech nasiraish. Al amcha yevri musar v'yasatzu atzvanecha. Amaru l'chu v'nachidim igay v'lo yizach Hashem Yisraelod. Ki noatzu leiv dachtav alecha b'sichreisu. Ahalei edem yishmei l'mayav agrim. Givol v'amayim v'amalik peleshes miyashveit sar. Gam ashun l'vayimam v'yisrael l'sela. Asay lehem ki midyon kisesach yav v'menachal kishon. Nishmedu v'ein dar hoy demen l'adama. She say my nidivema karei v'chazei v'chazeva chukis haman akol nesichemai. Asher amaru neshalonu es nice elahim. Elohai shesemach hakagal kekashaf neruach. Keish tivayachal avat lahedarim. Kain to the famous arechu b'sefas chasav alein. Malay f'nehem kolayin v'vakshu shemcha Adonai. Yevoshu v'yibali adiyad v'yachru v'yavedu. V'yedu ki ata shemcha Adonai v'chayin akol haaretz. Achenu kaveis Yisrael, and the sunnah matzara v'shivya, omdim bein bayom v'bein bayabasha, hamakom rachim